Hello, everyone. We wish you a great morning. Thank you for attending with us. This morning, we are going to have an amazing seminar that is going to give you some very, very, very life pertinent information. The Thy Wills Be Done seminar. This is a seminar that's gone for a while, and due to the pandemic, we're bringing it to you online. So you're getting it in the convenience of your home. So grab your pens, papers, pencils, whatever you need. Take notes. You will be given contact information for the amazing qualified speakers to which you will have access through this presentation. Now, throughout the presentation, you will be able to ask questions. Good morning, Nutanya. You will be able to ask questions. Type them in the chat, and they will be shown on the screen so that the speakers can address them. Now, when the speakers are speaking during their individual presentations, if we do not have time to address your questions, then don't fret. At the end of this presentation, we will have an entire Q&A, and we're going to go over the entire amount of questions that we have. So please post your questions, stick with us through the whole thing, and enjoy this presentation. This is life-changing, potentially life-saving information. Additionally, this will be recorded. It will be a YouTube video, so you will be able to go back to it and refer later to regain the information. So we're so glad all of you could join us, and good morning to all of you that said that. Right now, we are going to have a prayer by our amazing leader, Pastor Fitzgerald.
Amen. Good morning. We thank everyone for joining on, and we're just going to ask God's blessings upon what we're doing today. Shall we pray? Gracious God, our Father, our Savior, our Liberator, our Provider. God, we love you because you first loved us, and we ask, oh Heavenly Father, as we get our end of life situations together, we pray for the anointing to be afresh through this social media platform. God, we thank you for our host. We thank you, oh God, for every panel speaker. We ask, oh God, for those who are gathering with us virtually, that you would bless them with information that will set them on a plane, that when we come to that place, in which we all will, that we'll have our house in order, that our family will not go through any more bereavement, any more sadness than what they're already going because of the loss of life. God, we love you. We thank you. Bless our time together. In the matchless and powerful name of Christ, we do pray. Amen. God bless you.
Thank you, Pastor. So now I'm going to introduce two young ladies, two amazing young ladies that have had an unexpected and untimely experience with this very process. I'm going to introduce you, the sisters of Atatiana Jefferson, Amber and Ashley Carr. These two young ladies are amazing. Their strength, their perseverance has been astounding throughout the untimely and wrongful taking of Atatiana. And they're going to share with you why this process is important, because they've had to go through it. And what it is like having to go through this when Atatiana did not have a will. So I'm going to bring on Atatiana's oldest sister, Ashley, and her middle sister, Amber. But first, before we go any further, let's wish Ashley a happy birthday. She just had her birthday, so we say happy birthday, Ashley.
Happy birthday, Ashley.
So go ahead, ladies, and share with us your experience and the importance of these end-of-life processes.
It's very important. I guess we should start by saying it is very important. I don't know.
Sorry. Yes, it is very important. What Amber was saying. This is real, and many of us believe that at an early age, or at a young age, these things should not have been thought of, because many of us are goal is to be more in life, and we're climbing the ladder of what we want our legacy to live. So when we're doing all of that planning on how we want our future, we do not think about the end.
No.
And that's where we are currently, because my sister, she was an amazing person to all of us, to anybody who knew her. You don't nobody say anything negative about my sister, type situation. Um, and she was on the verge. She was climbing the ladder of what she wanted to do. She was trying to get ready to go to medical school, and she wanted to pay for it out of pocket type situation. So that's why she wanted to save her money, and she didn't want to be the broke college student anymore type situation. So in the midst of all of that, October 12th, 2019 is when my sister was murdered in her home in Fort Worth, Texas. And we have not had a trial date to even prepare for that. But another thing that we were left with was my sister died without a will. And when you die without a will in the state of Texas, I think you leave it up to the courts to decide on who's your heirs. And um, when you're not in a traditional family, where it's a mother and a father, and everybody has the same parents and things of that nature, that's when the laws become muddy and things like that. People who have not been in your life, or you've been raised with your grandmother all your life type situation, and you find out this is your father. Well, those things happen where now you have to prove that this is who they are and things of that nature. And it just becomes so
A
much.
mess.
It's
A
a whole,
complete mess. And we were kids when all of this was happening. Now we're left to clean up the mess. We're clueless. We wasn't even, I was in diapers. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a mess. Yeah, and now you're left to deal with the mess.
right. And it is things that, like as Amber said, these are things we cannot control. These are things that were not a part. We had no part in the decision making, but now we're having to, I guess, the remnants, or the assets of all of that. It has now flowed over to us, because now we're in the process of determining who's my sister's heirs. And you guys seen us on the news. Y'all know, our family is a traditional, and everybody doesn't agree with how everything has went down. But so now we're having to go to court and bring documents and things of that nature, when all of this could have been easily resolved if Tay had a will and just said, this is my heir, this is blah blah blah, things, something simple as that can resolve a lot of all of this. So what me and Amber and my brother Darius, we've definitely started, we got our own wills, because we understand that this is real. And we have things that, Amber has kids,
Even if you don't have dependents, you need a will.
you still need a will. You still need
Yeah.
a will, but you still need, people need to know these. Basically, your will is your last word that you have on this earth. And without that word, you're leaving it up to interpretation for anybody.
Assumptions. Anybody and everybody can claim you. They
Mhm.
know you. And please don't say there could be there possibly royalty or something. Oh my gosh, they was the Queen of England. Oh yeah, that's my cousin. Oh yeah, that's my daughter. And you in a whole nother continent. Ain't been in America in 30 years, but you trying to claim stakes on a child that you ain't seen in over 30 years. You've been in a whole nother continent.
So yeah, and so these absentee parents are showing back up, or I don't even want to put parents, these absentee people, because some
It's
of these,
like a movie.
it's
It's like
really
a movie.
crazy that we're trying to figure out who belongs, who is Tay's heirs. You know, in our eyes, we of course it's us because
Duh.
we are, you know, her
Her
family, we was
siblings.
her siblings,
Immediate
and
family.
we were like real family. We were there for the good and the bad, you know, with and without money, you know,
We have
type situation.
documentation. We have pictures. You see a timeline with the pictures. These people don't even have, they can't even provide you with photos. You know what I'm saying? And they don't have to. When you don't have a will, they don't have to.
They don't.
They don't have to.
Now it's all of how a judge may feel about it. And so we're in that fight right now because it's so many people, you know, people see, oh, these lawsuits and these settlements, and oh my God, this is money, 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 money. Now so many people with their hands out. But when Tay need insulin, you know, because she was a diabetic, there was nobody helping her. When Tay needed, you know, help with being in school and things like that, that was my
Hello.
mom. That was our mother that paid for her to go to school and things of that nature. So to see all these people try to take up for or claim things that they have done for her, it's like, wow. It's like,
Yeah.
it's so shocking.
They're creating more problems for us. They're
Hmm.
making everything difficult for us when they're supposed to be we're supposed to be looking up to these people, y'all. Not to get emotional, but these are like the head, my grandmother's children, the head. We're supposed to be looking up to y'all. And y'all can't even guide us. Y'all don't even want to combine as a family as a whole. Like, it's really, y'all.
When you
Y'all
see
know
it,
how it goes. Y'all know how it goes. Y'all know how it goes. It's so ghetto. It's so tacky. And it's so tiring. Cause we don't want to be doing this. We want to get justice for Tatiana. We can't even get justice. We can't even dwell on that. We can't even grieve.
mm-mm.
All for $1?
That's all
What
this is
about her
about.
life? That would have been the justice. That would have been the justice. That's justice. If he had acknowledged to himself, that would have been the justice. There's no justice at this point. Justice would have been knocking on the door and acknowledging himself. They're not worried about that. They're not worried about that. They're not worried about any of that.
Yeah, that's not their goal. That's not, everybody want acknowledgement. Everybody wants to stand on the throne and say, I did this. I created this. This is
And
mine.
then
So
claim to be a child of God. God don't operate in that manner. That is tacky. He ain't never been tacky. My God ain't tacky. That is tacky behavior. Whew, Jesus.
Ladies, your presentation has been
Whew.
amazing.
You said you wanted it.
We
I
baby, we
told you I
gave
was
it.
ready. I got my
Y'all
coffee.
gave it. Y'all got your panel in tears. Oh
It's
my
real.
God.
I
And
need
I
y'all to
need
feel me. We're not out here, think this is not a game. This is not, we're not creepy like that. This is not a game. There's a lot of things that behind closed doors that's happening, and it's really weird out here. Y'all don't even know the half of it. Y'all don't really know the half of it. We're fighting for a cause. You think everybody is fighting for a cause, but no, it's not. That's not the case. It's really grimy. And you got to have God. If you don't have God, baby, you will crumble.
ooh, baby, if
You
this
will
ain't drawing us
crumble.
closer to God, I mean, they say, Lord put you in places to bring you closer. I feel like He wanted us like literally up under Him, because that's all we have. That's literally all we have. Because everything that we have been faced and told in our life, a lot of that is lies. A lot of that is
Jada, you can take
fabrication
the towel.
that people have made up, and
Yes.
what we learning, what's done in the dark is coming to the light. So we're over here with our mindset that the Lord is going to expose all of this, that ain't supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want my sister. You know, one thing y'all saw when the funeral got stopped, that was embarrassing to us. That
Yeah.
was
And
extremely
we've
embarrassing
always
to
felt
us.
embarrassing anyways, growing up as
Anyway,
a child, always
right.
felt embarrassed because of our upbringing, because we weren't brought up in a traditional household. We were brought up in my grandmother's home or in her aunt's home, you know. We weren't brought up. So we've always felt this kind of don't belong. They just
Mhm.
put up with us just because. So, like, at this point, you know, we grown.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I, I,
Not
oh
sorry.
gosh, I am so sorry. Y'all know I got y'all's backs because I do serve on the Atatiana Project Advisory Board. Thank you so, so much for sharing your heart, your reality, your struggle with us today, making it plain for us. And things I want y'all to take away from this. You see how they talked about an absent parent popping up and having rights. People that weren't there. And I need to share with you just last night, I was on a call and George Floyd's cousin was on there. And she said the same thing. She said he should have never been in Minneapolis, but he had to go there because no one in Houston would help him. When he needed food, when he needed things, he went to Minneapolis to try to do better. But if his family had stood up for him, he never would have been there. So again, thank you too for sharing with us your hearts, your reality. Y'all made it real today. Y'all did the thing. Thank you so much. And you see scrolling at the bottom, the Atatiana Project is an organization because Atatiana was mathematically smart and gifted. They have a STEM organization designed to give access to our children opportunities within gaming and other STEM subjects to build and enhance their development and give them that access. So if you'd like to donate, please see at the bottom and donate accordingly. Thank you, ladies, so much for sharing with us today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you for having us.
having us.
All right, so now we will move forward. What we're going to do now, like I said, please continue to put your questions in the chat. And we are now going to go into our panelists. Our panelists are going to come up one at a time. They got excellent presentations for you. Now, a couple of questions I have seen. T.A. Jeremiah, how do I get a will done? That will be answered for sure in this program. Additionally, it was Robin. Can you provide information on how to start the last will and testament process? You are going to see that in this presentation. I believe that was all the questions we have for now. We've got kudos for some of our panelists. And let's see. Yes, you will. This will be on YouTube later. It will be on the YouTube channel, Dr. Grayson's YouTube channel, and it will be transferred to Friendship West YouTube channel as well. All right, so now let's go ahead and go forward with our first panelist. We have the amazing attorney, Miss Alexia Barber. She's a principal attorney and founder of the law office of Alexia Barber, PLC, and estate planning and administration, probate, trust and guardianship, litigation, business, and crisis management firm in Balch Springs. This is her bailiwick. She's proud alumna of Grambling State, HBCU, and the Paul M. Herbert Law Center on the campus of LSU. Attorney Barber made the decision to enter private practice after recognizing there was an immediate need in her community for attorneys that are committed to helping individuals and families who may not have previously worked with an attorney or may lack firsthand knowledge of the inner workings of the legal system. Many people find it difficult to discuss and prepare for the future. Having an empathetic and knowledgeable attorney who is willing to listen and protect what matters most is not only Miss Barber's passion, it is her promise. Miss Barber's civic engagement. She does pro bono work through the Dallas Volunteer Attorney Program, Friendship West Baptist Church, Legal Clinic, She's a legal chairman of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Alpha Alpha Omicron Omega Chapter. She is a member of the State Bar of Texas, Dallas Bar Association, and J.L. Turner Legal Association in Dallas, Texas. So I present to some and introduce to others our talented attorney, Miss Alexia Barber.
Good morning, everyone, and a special good morning to our fabulous family of faith at Friendship West. As previously stated, I am attorney Alexia Barber. I'm excited and delighted to be here with you today as we prepare to discuss estate planning. I want to acknowledge Amber and Ashley, who previously spoke about their very personal experience with their family in regards to losing their sister unexpectedly. My heart goes out to them. I lost my sister unexpectedly in 2015. My sister did not have a will, but she had done several things to prepare for the unexpected. When our family lost my sister, she was 36 years old. And so I know all too well, as so many are watching, that when you have that unexpected loss, the first thing that you feel is grief. And so when you're in those unexpected, tragic feelings that are incredibly overwhelming, you're not thinking about a will. You're not thinking about the areas of what's to come in regards to handling their estate. You're thinking, my heart is broken. And so today we're going to discuss about preparing what's to come. I'm going to give you a guide for estate planning and really getting your house in order, to be about the business of making sure that you've prepared to make this transition, because all of us will have this transition, as bearable as possible for your family. And so if we'll go ahead and proceed with the next slide, our discussion and conversation today is going to really focus on 3 key areas. We're going to discuss very briefly facing our apprehension as a community and individuals in regards to estate planning. Then we're going to move on to discuss probate and non-probate transfers. There are things that you can do today, even if you don't have a will. There are things that you can do to prepare so that if God were to call you home before you have an opportunity to prepare a will, you've taken some tangible steps to help your family and loved ones in your transition. And then lastly, we'll discuss some specific estate planning tools that can help you when you sit down with an attorney to prepare your estate. And so if we'll go ahead and proceed with the next slide, I wanted to really share these 2 pictures, as you see on the screen, in our discussion about facing our fears towards estate planning. I have a friend that I went to law school with. We sat down for dinner last week and she was telling me, even as an attorney, her father does not want to prepare a will because he is, like so many others, superstitious, and he thinks, if I make a will, I'm going to die. He really believes that if he writes this will, that the inevitable is going to come sooner. I serve a God who is able. I serve a God who is predestined everything in our life. So I don't believe that if you draft a will, that it's going to speed up what God has already ordained for your life. I think that God has placed attorneys and professionals in our lives to prepare for what's to come, because death, unfortunately, is inevitable. It is a date that none of us will be able to reschedule, an appointment that we can't cancel or move on to another day, week, or month. And so I put these 2 pictures in this presentation so that we could wrap our mind around the concept that when we think about estate planning, it's not just for the old. And so let's go ahead and throw the word the old out. I don't think of people as old. I think of them as seasoned. And so when you think about seasoning and marination, it gets better with time. So let's start thinking about the way we approach life and the way we think about estate planning. I chose to put this picture of a young family because everyone needs to have estate planning. It's not something that we should be preparing as someone's on their deathbed. As I get many calls for emergency will and document assistance, I have had deathbed clients. I've gone to hospitals and prepared estate planning. And not only is it difficult as an attorney to do that, but it's difficult for your family to have to do that. They're already grappling with your sickness and what's to come, and then they're having to stop in that moment when they should be sharing with you and call an attorney to do something that could have been done months, weeks, or even years ago. And so when we think about estate planning, think about it just as you would any other area of your life. You go to a doctor to get checkups, you go to a dentist to get your teeth cleaned because you want to make sure that your body continues to be healthy. Well, just as though you care about your body, you need to care about your business. And your estate is your opportunity to put your will and your desires in writing. Essentially, your estate planning is, in the words of Nene Leakes, I said what I said. And no matter your relationships with your family, your friends, your colleagues, putting your estate planning in order allows you to have the final say over the things that you've done to work so hard for throughout your life. And so if we'll go ahead and advance to the next slide, we'll begin the discussion of probate versus non-probate assets. And so when you think about probate assets, these are the items that when you pass away, they are required to go through a court process for them to be distributed to your heirs and to your loved ones. So you think about real estate that's in your name, that real estate that's in your name either alone or it's held as a tenant in common. Personal property, cars, jewelry, household furnishings, TVs, your sports memorabilia, those items are considered probate matters. Additionally, bank accounts that are in your name alone. And we'll talk about that in more detail in a few moments. And then you think about interest that you have in a partnership, a corporation, or some type of business that you may have. And then any type of life insurance policy or a brokerage account that either lists you, where you've left this policy somehow by mistake to your name, or it lists your estate as a beneficiary, or it doesn't have anyone listed because the beneficiaries that you listed years ago have since passed on. Those items are probate matters that will have to go through some type of court proceeding to be distributed to your family. If you have a will, they're going to be distributed in proportion to what you have listed in your will. If you do not have a will, it's going to go by Texas state intestacy law. And that's where we run into a big issue. As you heard Amber and Ashley discuss with their family, like many of us, they have a blended family. They may have half siblings. And I understand in our community, we really don't discuss half siblings. If you grew up in a household with someone, even if you don't share the same father or mother, that's your brother, that's your sister. But according to Texas state law and the law in many other states, for those who may be watching throughout the country, those individuals are not going to be considered full siblings, and their proportion of your estate, when it's distributed without a will, they will not get the same cut as someone that is considered a blood relative. For those who have a stepfather who has been in your life your entire life, that's not considered a blood relative. So if something were to happen to you without a will, essentially that step sibling, that stepfather, stepmother, they're left out of your will. If you have a parent that you haven't had a relationship with since Jesus was a boy, that mother, father, that family member can come in, as Ashley and Amber discussed, and inherit a portion of your estate by Texas state law. So if you don't remember anything else that I tell you today, think about relationships that you have. And I always say there are two types of people in your life: those that you love because of who they are, and those that you love in spite of who they are. And as you're hearing that, I'm sure you're thinking about those relationships in your family. And if you worked incredibly hard your entire life to prepare, you don't want to miss this key step of preparing a will. And then you have that family member that can come in on the end that you haven't had a relationship with, and they have a portion of your estate. And so when we think about probate versus non-probate assets, non-probate assets is property that is passed by contract, survivorship, or it's held in a trust. So you think about your bank account right now. When you set up your bank account, even if you have someone on there that is a joint account holder, meaning they're listed on your account, if your opening documents when you signed up for that account doesn't list that person as a paid on death beneficiary or a transfer on death beneficiary, that person will not have access to those funds at your death. It does not automatically belong to them. So when we finish this discussion today, I really encourage you to look at your bank accounts and make sure that you have someone listed as a paid on death beneficiary, so that family member, that loved one, can go in and have access to those funds that they need to carry about the business after you pass away. Additionally, a non-probate asset includes your life insurance proceeds, IRAs, and your retirement accounts. And so if we'll go ahead and proceed on to the next slide, we'll be able to discuss very briefly the following estate planning tools that you should sit down and talk with an attorney about. A will. So a will is a document that you can create that will essentially put all of the assets that you own in writing and who you would like to have those items. Additionally, you will name someone as an executor, which will be the person that's responsible for distributing all of those assets to your heirs, and they will be the one that will be responsible for presenting your will to the court and going through the court administration so that your estate can be distributed. Also, there's something called a trust, which is something that I always recommend to clients that have minor children or those that may be caring for a parent or a loved one or individual with special needs. A trust is a document that can be drafted that will put assets into this collection, so to speak. And then when you need to have these assets distributed to the individual that is under the care for that trust, you have someone that is responsible for distributing those assets. So I always recommend a trust to my clients that have children that are minors. If something were to happen to both of the parents and they have $250,000 in life insurance, they don't want their children to have access to $250,000 when they turn 18 years old, coupled with the grief of losing their parents. And so a trust is an excellent document for you to be able to put all of your assets in, and you can name someone that is a custodian or guardian rather over your trust that can distribute these assets to your loved one. When you think about medical directives, there are several. There's an advance directive, a medical power of attorney, and there's something called a HIPAA authorization and many other medical directives. All of these different documents are essentially you putting your wishes in regards to your medical treatment and care in writing, and also who has access to your medical records. And so you consider the situation that we're in right now with the pandemic and not being able to have access to your loved ones when they were in the hospital. Those individuals that had prepared medical directives in advance had family members that could call the doctors and hospitals and get access to their treatment. And in the event that this family member was unable to make decisions for themselves, their agent that they had already named in this document was then able to step in and make decisions on what would happen with their care. So the statutory durable power of attorney is a power of attorney that is for your business. And so it's for bank accounts, transferring ownership of property. And so it's the business side of your power of attorney. And so you see the other documents that are listed on the screen. These are documents that are best discussed with an attorney. But these documents that are listed here, if you want to take a screenshot, are the documents that you need essentially to get your house in order. Even I'll reference the appointment for disposition of remains. If you have a family that you know when the time comes and they're going to fight over who makes your funeral arrangements and they won't be able to agree, you can make an appointment before you pass away of who you want to be in charge and what you want to happen. And so I really encourage you to sit down with an attorney to discuss each one of these estate planning tools. My number is scrolling at the bottom of the screen. I'll be happy to sit down with you and your family and really get your affairs in order. And so if we'll go ahead and proceed with the next slide, we really just need to begin to think about the unexpected. And so I wanted to share this quote with you. When you don't know what to expect, just prepare for the unexpected. None of us know the day or the hour. None of us know what's to come. But if we go ahead and get our house in order with estate planning, it gives you peace of mind knowing that you haven't put this burden on your family to deal with not only your loss, but having to handle your business. There's also a great toolkit that Friendship West has prepared, which is on the Friendship West website. If you go to the Friendship West website and go to ministries and then to the bereavement ministry, at the bottom of the screen, there's a toolkit that you can download that has not only some of this information that I've discussed today, but a lot of helpful information that can help you and your family prepare. I thank you for listening today, and I look forward to speaking with you soon to get your house in order.
All right. Attorney Barbara, that was amazing. Amazing information. All right. So what I am doing is trying to see if I can get a screenshot of where they can pull that information. But we do have the bereavement ministry page, and then you would just go there. And if for some reason you can't find that information, just reach out. And I believe that goes to the amazing Una. And Una will definitely respond to you and ensure that you get that information. Now, some questions were asked while you were speaking, and what we are going to do is we'll address those towards the end, because we want to go ahead and allow the rest of our panelists. But Attorney Barber, thank you. That was amazing information. I enjoyed your in-depth descriptions and definitions and the purpose and the value of these pieces. Thank you so much. We are going to move on to our next speaker. Now we have, like we've said, some amazing speakers for you today. So our next one is Miss Vicki Richardson. Miss Richardson is the owner and chief executive officer of Combined Benefit Solutions of Texas and Premier Funeral Consulting and Financial Services. She is a longtime native of Dallas. She studied business management with a minor in marketing at Prairie View A&M University, yay, HBCU, and the University of Phoenix. She has a bachelor's degree in business management and a strong background in banking and mortgage lending. So she currently holds insurance licenses in the state of Texas, Louisiana, and a few other states for over 30 years. Ms. Vicki has been committed to educating and training both agents and clients in order to make a difference in the community she serves, with a primary focus on pre-arranged funeral planning. She has made a lifetime commitment to impacting the lives of families and individuals for generations to come. She serves as a member of the Fort Worth Metroplex Black Chamber of Commerce, the National Council of Negro Women, NAPA, NFD and MA Ladies Auxiliary, West Wall Street, and on the Bereavement Executive Board at our beloved church, Friendship West Baptist Church. So she's going to talk to us about a few things pre-planning and the importance of doing that now. How you want your legacy to go. How do you want to be remembered, and who will plan your celebration of homegoing if you don't? So these are things you want to know. So I give to you our own in-house talent, Miss Vicki Richardson Stewart.
Hello. Hi, Dr. Grayson. Hello, everyone, the panel. Good morning or afternoon to everyone. Thank you for taking the opportunity and the time of your day to sit with us and listen to what we have to say. I just want to touch on a few things that I think are very important that, we as a people need to put things in order. So I'm going to go over a few things and just kind of give you an idea of the importance of pre-planning and doing it today and not tomorrow. How it's going to affect you, how it affects your family. And so one of the things I want to start with is that the death of a loved one is a difficult and emotional time. It also creates an unplanned financial burden on the family and the members. There are many options available where you can pay for your funeral arrangements in advance, okay? So a lot of people still today that do not know that they can actually go to a funeral home or make a phone call to a professional like myself and make arrangements in advance. Therefore, you're not leaving this burden on your family. When you pre-plan, you can actually freeze the cost at today's price, okay? And make payments on it. You set up the payment arrangements, you know how much money you want to spend, and all the things that you're not in a position where you're, crunch for time, like doctor has told you that you're going to pass, you got 6 months to live or something like this, where you can actually sit down and make informed decision and also making provisions for your loved ones. So, I just applaud Amber and Ashley for what they brought to us this morning in regards to what they've experienced and all these things. Not just only with the will, but just not having things in place. You don't want your family to be burdened with already grief from losing you, and now you're putting them in debt. You could be the best person in the world. You can do everything. You be the best family member, the best friend. But all people remember is what happened at the end. And what happened at the end is that you didn't have your business in order. And so we have to sit down and we have to think about this, have the talk with our families and letting them know that, it's very, very important that we put things in order and not leave our families to have to make these decisions at a time of grief, because that's when there's an overspending of money, emotions with each other start to get really, really in a bad situation, leaving people not talking to each other at the end. So some of the things that I wanted to go over is, why is this so important that we should pre-plan? Again, I talked about freezing the price. Whatever the price is today, a lot of funeral homes have discounted packages that is not advertised. But if you're talking to the pre-planning professional at that particular funeral home, they can give you some package plans that are discounted. You can freeze that cost and then set up payments. You make monthly payments. In most cases, it's 1, 3, 5, 7, or 10 years to pay those plans out at a comfortable budget. So you want to look at those type of things. Also, when you're pre-planning, you want to do things that you don't want anybody to throw you away. Okay. So I always make the statement that I want to leave the way I lived. Okay. And that's with dignity. And so when we do things like this, we put things in place, you're leaving the family to pick out the color. I asked my son the other day, well, what was my favorite food? He said chocolate cake, because he know I love chocolate cake. But sometimes I look at my son and I see that he's, wearing these loud colors and all these type of things. And I'm thinking to myself, would he put me in a lime color casket or something like that? Or, and so my thing is that when we pre-plan for ourselves, we take such a burden off our loved ones. Okay. And all they have to do is prepare to celebrate you and not trying to have raise money to go to the pastors of a church or to their friends. Now you're involving people into your personal business, and because there wasn't any provisions made in advance for the family. You have things that are out available to you, like they call it the pre-planning guide, where you could actually sit down with a professional and sit down with your family members and go over everything about where things are. When a family may know your family members, your mother's name, your mother's father's name, and all these type of things. But when grief happens, the loss of a loved one, there's a brain freeze that happens. And when that brain freeze happens, the funeral director is sitting there asking you this information for the death certificate, and you can't get it out. But when you prepare with a planning guide, you just hand that to the funeral director, and everything is there. Everything is planned. And so it helps the family from having to make decisions or try to think of things, and then the wrong information is provided, and then we're having to clean up that information. So it's always good to put things in writing. You want to make sure that when you're pre-planning, I did mine when I was 32. I'm 59 now. I have everything in order because I only have one child. Even though you say, well, that's just one child, he won't have any problem. That's not true. If you go back and listen to what Attorney Barber said, even if you don't have a child or just one child, it is so important that you pre-plan. And when you're pre-planning, how would you like to be remembered? Would you like to be remembered as a professional, or would you like to be remembered as a person that didn't handle their business? Sometimes I've seen people that would actually just get up and say things that was not true about that person. So you want to make sure that you have things in order and put things in place when you're pre-planning. It is so important, and it's so easy to do. It's just like 1, 2, 3. You pick up the phone and call the professional at the funeral home for a pre-arranged funeral planning. The second thing is you meet with them, talk with them, and tell them what your concerns are, what type of provisions you want to put in place. Your family don't know if you want to be cremated. They don't know if you want a traditional burial. They don't know if you want a memorial a service. So when you're talking to that professional, that professional would go over all these things to tell you the importance and what happens in each choice that you make. And then at that point, you make the decision that's right for you. Uh, and once you do that, you can put that in stone, because when you're filling out those documents for the pre-planned funeral planning, the documents actually basically says that you don't want anybody to make any changes to your wishes. They can always add to it, but they can't make any changes to it. And it's so important. In addition to pre-planning, it has such an impact on if you have a loved one in a nursing home. You know that the pre-planning application is an irrevocable, where there's no cash out to anyone. So therefore, it's accepted in the Texas Health and Human Services. It's protected with the nursing homes. So that cash value does not affect any benefits when it comes to Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. So these things are so important that the professional will explain these things to you. And that way, in case if you do have to go to a nursing home or have to put a loved one in a nursing home, all of these things are available to you, and you don't have to try to make those decisions at the time. I think that we as a people, we're afraid. Attorney Barbara said earlier about making a will. I'm scared if I make a will, I'm going to die. And you have the same mindset that people think the same thing with prearranged funeral planning. And prearranged funeral, we already have a designated time that we're going to die because we lived. Okay, so again, I talk about when I took did my pre-planning. I'm still here. Almost 30 years later, I'm still here. And so get that out of our minds that if we pre-plan that we're going to die anyway, regardless to I know a whole lot of people that have died that did not have prearranged funeral planning. So we want to make sure that we have those things in place. So if you had thought about it, or if you had thought about it and not thinking about it anymore, or those of you that don't know anything about it, pick up the phone and give me a call. My information is going to be scrolled down on the bottom here, and that information is just so important that you pre-plan in advance. There's no age limit. When we're talking about age 0 to 110 plus, anybody and everybody can get a prearranged funeral plan. Okay, so no matter if you have health conditions, there's no contestable period when you talk about prearranged funeral planning if it's written right with the right professional. So you just put those things in order, and don't allow your family to have to struggle and make decisions about this. In addition to any other estate planning, this is so important. We have a lot of bucket lists, of things in bucket lists that we want to do. We want to travel. We want to graduate from college. We want to do this and we want to do that. But in the bucket list, people never list prearranged funeral planning. Nobody wants to list the ending. Nobody wants to talk about it. But it's the most important thing that you can do for your family is prearrange. Life insurance is good. But it's exactly what it said it is. It says it's life insurance. Okay, it's for the living. People don't take out life insurance to bury themselves. They take out life insurance to leave something for their loved one. Prearranged funeral plan is to bury that person and not leaving the family to have to make those decisions. The emotional overspending, I see it every day. We can avoid doing that by pre-planning in advance. That's basically what I just wanted to cover. I don't want to make this morbid or anything like that for our viewers, but just remember, it's so important to pre-plan. Dr. Grayson.
All right, that was great information. And the thing I took for that, because I was the one that posed the question, what is the difference between leaving the life insurance to cover it and having the pre-planning? That was great. Life insurance is to be left for your living. Right. Pre-planning is to take care of your home going. And I want to go home like I live. I got some new ideas for my home going. I think I'm gonna have them bring me in to the song Outstanding by the Gap Band. That's what I think I just changed my and I want them to dance like they do at the homegoings in New Orleans. That's what I want. Oh, we gonna rock.
All right.
I told them already because I have the kit from the church and I completed mine. And I said I wanted to be buried in my Kaepernick jersey. Y'all gonna know who and what I stood for because y'all will believe like I lived. Great information. Thank you so much, Ms. Richardson. You see her information scrolling at the bottom. And again, everybody stick around. There is going to be a Q&A at the end of this, and you can post your questions in chat and they will be addressed. So again, thank you. But now we're going to bring up another individual with exceptionally valuable information as well. First of all, it speaks a lot of elected officials. They want to come and help and give you pertinent information. So we actually have the Dallas County Tax Assessor up next, Mr. John Ames. Now, Mr. Ames has been with us for a while. He was first elected in November of 2008 and elected again in 2012, 2016, and 2020. So that clearly says he gets the job done. He's been serving since January 2009. Now, Mr. James has over 25 years of property tax experience in Dallas County. Prior to being elected, he was the Director of Taxation for the DeSoto Joint Tax Office and previously worked in the City of Garland Tax Office. He holds many certifications in the field of tax collections and tax office preparations. He's a certified tax professional, a registered tax assessor, collector, a certified school tax administrator, and a professional county tax assessor. Wow. That professional county assessor collector is the highest certification an elected county tax assessor in Texas can earn. He received his Bachelor of Business Administration from Northwood University. He's going to be talking about some great things with us today, specifically wills, important at any age, exemptions, make a difference. Learn about exemptions, deferrals, learn what those are and how they benefit us. And don't delay in transferring your property and vehicles. It could possibly save you fees and possibly reduce your taxes. So this is amazing, helpful information that you're going to want. So I present to you our own county tax assessor, Mr. John Ames.
Well, thank you, Dr. G, and thank you, Ms. Howard, for inviting me. This is probably the fourth or fifth one I've done with Friendship West, and it's so nice to be with you again today. I'm so glad that you guys are continuing to bring this program virtually since we can't all be together. But next year, I'm looking forward to being there right there in the church with you. Let me just say that Attorney Barbara did an amazing job explaining wills, and, I want to echo everything that you've heard already today. Losing a loved one is never fun, right? And so you're saying to yourself today, what is the tax collector doing on this call? What does he have to do with my loved one's death? Well, why is he here to tell us about this? Well, unfortunately, taxes are a big part of your life, right? When you own property or you own vehicles, you have to come see the tax collector. And when you die without a will, it makes it really difficult for your loved ones. And so again, let's not compound the bereavement that your loved ones are going through to deal with a tax situation. I say it all the time to people, wills are important at any age. Have one and be specific. Be specific about it, right? Do you know how many people come into my office and they say, well, my aunt said that she wanted me to have the house. And then their cousin comes in and says, no, my aunt told me she wanted me to have the house. Well, I don't get to make that decision. As Attorney Barbara said, that has to go through the courts. And unless your aunt had a will and she specifically said who she wanted to have the house, at that point, nobody gets the house. It gets divided between everybody. Can you imagine, as a tax assessor, having a family of 40 some odd cousins come in and say, there was no will, we all own 1/40% of her entire house? Now, who lives in it? Who pays the house to taxes? Who maintains it? Where does it go? How does it even get sold if they wanted to sell it, right? All those things can be resolved up front with a will before you even pass away, right? And so a lot of times people will lose their family homes because they can't figure out what to do, or because everybody inherited the home, nobody can afford the taxes, and not one person's willing to step up and pay all the taxes for everybody else unless they get 100% ownership, right? And so it's so important when it comes to that point. Now, I want to get off wills for a minute because I think you've heard enough about wills, and I hope that everybody on this call either has one or they're making an appointment right now to get one. I know that I didn't have a will until my wife and I adopted our children. And about a week after we adopted our children, we ran to the attorney. We got a will, and it's probably time to get it updated for sure because they're teenagers now. So let me talk to you about exemptions. Exemptions make such a difference, right? If you have a home and you claim your homestead exemption, or if you're disabled or over 65 and you claim that exemption, that's an amazing cost savings for you. Well, when you die, those exemptions come off. And so whoever inherits that home, if they don't have clear title to it and they don't have a clear delineation as to who gets it, they can't qualify for any exemptions. And so, for example, you may die and leave your home without a will to your 4 children. None of them can get an exemption on it because 1/4 of them own it. It doesn't belong to any one person's property. And so it's so important to make sure for exemption status that you can get the proper exemptions for homes when you pass away to the person you leave it to. Tax deferrals. You've probably heard of tax deferrals. At age over 65, you can get a tax deferral. That doesn't mean your taxes go away. That means they get deferred until your death, or you move out of the property and sell it, right? Tax deferrals are great. We never want people to choose between paying taxes or putting groceries in the refrigerator or buying their medicine, right? That's why the legislature put the deferral process in place. And so here's my plea to you. If you get a tax deferral, please tell your loved ones you got a tax deferral. So many people come in and they say, I had no idea that my mom had been deferring her taxes for the last 27 years, and now she owes $100,000 in taxes. Even if you defer your taxes, tell your loved ones they may help you pay them early, because when you die, there is some penalties for deferring your taxes. They're not as big as if you didn't have the deferral, but there's definitely somebody will have to pay that on the back end. And so it's important. And so many people lose the family home, not because they couldn't do what they needed to do with it or they didn't have a will, but the taxes were deferred for so long and they didn't know about it. And now they don't have the money to pay the taxes. So they have to sell the houses to pay the taxes. It's so important to tell your loved ones that you need a tax deferral. And then lastly, I want to talk about not delaying the transfer of property and vehicles. We all have the loved ones who are at the age now where they don't drive anymore, right? And so what we do is we just park their car in the driveway, or we say, oh, let me let my grandson have that. Or, Cousin Joe needs that car. Well, you know what? Go ahead and transfer that title to that vehicle now, because what happens is when they pass away, what will happen is there's nothing in your will that says that Cousin Joe got the car, and he's been driving it for 5 years now. Well, now the car doesn't belong to anybody. It wasn't specific in your will. He didn't have the car. If you're not using your vehicle, go ahead and transfer it to your loved one. It's a minor fee. It's less than $30 to transfer to a family member. Even if you transfer to a family member that's further away from what the law will allow, it's a very minor sales tax cost and a transfer fee. And it's worth it so that the person who has that vehicle can make sure that they don't have to worry about giving that vehicle back. You gave it to them for a reason, right? They needed it. And so let them use it. So I just applaud Friendship West for doing this every year. I applaud all the speakers and the panelists today. Thank you, Ms. Howard, for always inviting me and including the tax office in these important discussions. And thank you, Dr. G, for hosting today. We really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for this excellent information. So like he said, tell your loved ones if there's a tax deferral. Also, the transferring, go ahead and do that now. And, a lot of times as we mature, Medicare and Medicaid will require those types of transfers. So you can go ahead and do that now and not be penalized for it later. So thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us and to come on board and share this very pertinent information.
Always glad to be here.
All right, please stick around for the Q&A. Everybody stick around for the Q&A. So now I saw that, Nutanya, you have a question about, let's see, about a plot that you have, a military plot that you have available, which is right on time because our next speaker is a representative from the DFW National Cemetery. He has been with them for the past 10 years, and he is now the lead cemetery representative. Mr. Dale Davis's duties include overseeing the representatives. He processes headstones and markers for veterans and their spouses, schedules all services daily, and by working with the funeral homes and entering burial data for the decedents. He has been a minority veterans outreach coordinator for 4 years, and he's also worked on the grounds as well. And his duties now include working with the budget and purchases and other information. He uses his resources to purchase and keep the facility operational and the contractors intact. And he also performs outreaches throughout the Metroplex annually. So I bring to you Mr. Daryl Davis, who will be discussing with us the military process in the use of those burial grounds. Mr. Davis.
Good morning, everyone. So glad to be here today. Thank you once again, Friendship West, for having me here. So honored, very appreciative of everything you've done for my family over the years. Thank you. Let's start off with logistics first. As far as where we are located, our actual name is Dallas Fort Worth National Cemetery. We're located southwest corner of Dallas, Texas, in between I-30 and I-20, just off of Spur. Now, this cemetery was dedicated in May of 2000. It was May 12th, and we had our first burial May 15 of 2000. Our acreage is 638. We have developed 140 acres of that location. So it's about an undeveloped land of about 498. If you have been there lately, you'll see a lot of construction going on. We're ever expanding. It's a growing cemetery, so we'll be around for a long time. We have about 72,000 decedents buried there now. It's going to be an estimated about 282,000 before we're done. So that's roughly about 40 years or so from now. Let's talk about burial benefits for the veteran and or spouse. So what does it include? It includes opening and closing of the gravesite. It includes the headstone or marker that comes with that site, the perpetual care of that gravesite, and also if you'd like to have a committal service at the cemetery. Of course, with the veteran, you can have the military honor service, but you can also have a service for the spouse. We also can bury dependent children up to 21, and if they're in college, 23. Also adult dependent children. So they changed the law a little bit. It used to be for an adult dependent child, they had to have been born with a disability. Parents have always taken care of them, were never self-sufficient, never married. They changed that a little bit to also say that now it doesn't necessarily have to be at time of birth. An adult dependent person can become disabled over the course of their life, still being taken care of by their parents. They should become eligible as well. That's just a little change on that. Let's see. We also, so in the burial process, it's about a $5,000 to $10,000 savings if you choose to have your loved one buried at the National Cemetery for that opening, closing of that gravesite. So it's pretty substantial. We also want to be sure that you understand there are no reservations for the National Cemetery per se. So once a person is interred, say a veteran, that space does become the gravesite for the veteran and the spouse. We do not actually reserve space beforehand. It's all at time of need. So basically what you need to do is just always make sure you have access to the Veterans Discharge Papers or DD-214. And what they do at time of passing, they present those papers to the funeral home. The funeral home will then fax those to our national scheduling office in St. Louis, and then they will verify eligibility right then. Once that's established, they will establish the case, schedule it, and then they send it to us. And then that's when we contact next of kin and funeral home about 1 to 3 days prior to their service date. And we go over all the marker information and tell them kind of what to expect on that day of the service. So there is no reservation. I just really want to kind of be clear about that. There is a pre-need eligibility form you can fill out. You can find it on our website. You can send that in ahead of time to see if you are eligible. They will send you a letter about 3 to 6 months later stating that you are eligible to be buried in any national cemetery of your choice. But again, it does not reserve space. It just states that you are eligible. So you can be buried in any national cemetery in the United States. Let's see, what else can we cover? You're welcome to call me at any time. My phone number is 214-467-3374. Direct extension is 207. Thank you for that. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Our burials are pre-placed crypts in the ground, so they hold 2 caskets. So it's a little bit different than a private cemetery as far as not having them side by side. If you have 2 veterans that are married, then they can be placed side by side. That is when we would actually reserve a space for that existing veteran. Veterans information goes on the front of the headstone. The spouse's information goes on the opposite side. It's a little different than you might see at a private cemetery. Committal services here, they are brief, about 15 to 20 minutes is about the average time. So it's a little different than a funeral. You know, these are committal services. So mostly you have your honors, then you'll have your minister speak, and that will pretty much be the gist of the service. So that's a little different too, you know. Other than that, I believe we have covered it all as far as burials. And again, if you have any questions, you can always visit our website as well. If you're internet savvy, you can get on our site, and a lot of information is there as well. So thank you for having me, and I appreciate being here.
All right. Hey, we got a quick question because you have extra time. So we've got one from a member, Nutanya, and she says she has an honor garden military plot for sale. Her parents cannot use it. Her father is deceased, and her mom wants to be buried with her husband, her father, in the DFW cemetery. Do you have any direction for her on how to facilitate that sale?
There are no costs at the National Cemetery, so I'm not quite sure where that plot is located. So you can't sell anything. So I'm not quite sure. That may be in a private cemetery that she speaks about.
Oh, and maybe it is. I just, when she said national honor, I thought maybe that was a particular cemetery. All right. So now I want to thank you so much for that information. So just that I'm clear, because I am also a licensed life insurance agent, and a lot of times I did get members of the military or veterans that would call in for life insurance. Do they not make them aware? Because they would call in thinking they needed to do everything on their own. I was also told that if they didn't claim these benefits within 2 years after exiting the military, that they were no longer eligible. Do you know if that's true?
No, that's not true. You don't have to ever even claim burial benefits anyway. Now, as far as the VA goes, you can enroll in the VA at any time, you know, and they will have you fill out that means test application if you're eligible to go to VA. But burial benefits, they are always there for an honorably discharged veteran. Before 1980, I should have mentioned this. Before 1980, all you need is 1 day of active duty and an honorable discharge. After 1980, you need 2 years to be eligible and an honorable discharge.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for this information, Mr. Davis. Please stick around for the Q&A. All right. We have some other speakers coming up. All right, so now we are going to hear from Mr. Patrick Bullocks. He represents Vitas Healthcare Incorporated, Dallas, Texas, in the underserved community, serving senior centers, multi-purpose centers, and civic centers in over 185 community churches. Patrick has done this for the past 12 years, is a community liaison. Patrick works with the community, educating them on the benefits of hospice and palliative care for residents and their families. And many of us see that word hospice as a word of doom. Patrick is a hospice expert, and he is basically going to help us to understand uh, and ensure that the final journey is a positive, celebratory experience for residents and their families. A sacred journey of death is important for the family as it is for the patient, except the family will replay the experience, good or bad, for the rest of their lives. And his goal is to make that replay good. His job is to dispel the myth and share with many that hospice care is a form of care he would like more of us to embrace. Patrick earned his Bachelor's of Science degree in Communications from the University of Northern Iowa. It's a great pleasure to introduce to some and present to others, Mr. Patrick Bullocks.
Hello, everybody, and welcome Friendship West and its members and others who are attending today's viewing. You know, they hear that word hospice, boy, I tell you, and we just go to a dark place. Let's be clear. We're all going to be called home. We're all going to be called, it's in the Bible. But one of the things I've said in the past and that I'll say again that I love about God on this side of heaven is that he gives us choices on how we close out our time on this side of heaven. I want to talk to you today about the choices that you do have when it comes to end-of-life care. And as the doctor stated just a few minutes ago, when we hear that word hospice, for some reason we go to a dark place in our mind, or it's an unknown. And from the unknown, you know, we tend to shy from. That's just our nature, we as African American, we as people in general. But I want to talk to you about this particular benefit, hospice care. It's a Medicare benefit that came on board back in 1978. And it's a Medicare benefit that we as a whole are all entitled to. Let me say that again, entitled to. You don't have to have a certain way of life, amount of money, what have you. This is something that we're all entitled to. When you hear that word hospice, we think, oh, that's the place where you go and die. Or, oh, no, I don't want to talk about that. Let me share with you what hospice really is. And then, as Doctor stated, we're going to try to dispel that myth. Hospice is a form of care. It's a form of care that allows our loved ones who have been deemed with a terminal illness transition into what we call a wonderful journey. Now, the great thing about this particular form of care is that we can receive this form of care in 3 locations. One in a hospital, nursing home, or facilities. But I would say 95% or 98% of our loved ones want to spend our closing days where? At home. And that's one of the great benefits that hospice care provides. It allows you to, however many days that God has for you on this side of heaven, you would be able to go dwell in the place of where you want to. And I think that's very important. Now, I think about the mindset of why everybody goes to a dark place. One of the things that we as a lot of, I would say, African Americans or people of color the most, we wait to the very end before we utilize any of the resources that might be out there. We wait to the very end. And a lot of times when we wait to the very end and the doctor stated, hey, we've exhausted all means, there's nothing else we can do. It is at that time where it's an emotional time. So we either panic or we go into disclosure, making sure that, hey, we want to try to do something to try to make things better. But while we're doing that, time is progressing. Whereas when we should address that when the doctor states that we've exhausted all means possible, we tend to hold on a little bit long, whether it be for our faith or whether it be for, again, the unknown. But when we do sometimes utilize that resource, we've waited so long that we've gotten to the final end of our loved one's journey. So when they do get on the service, whether it be a couple of days or a week, they pass. Well, we're all human. We're all human. If we see that pattern all the time, guess what we're going to believe? That when someone gets on hospice, they immediately die. Well, that's false. That's false. First of all, I want to talk to you about eligibility. You know, I serve the community. I've been doing this now over 14 years, working with churches like Friendship West and many of the other churches, 13 years. And many times I'm asked, when or how are we to know, or when are we appropriate to get on this form of care? Well, in order to take advantage of this form of care, you have to have a terminal illness. Now, Medicare says that a person's diagnosis where it's donated to where you have 6 months left, 6 months or less to live. But there are other comorbidities that allows you to take advantage of this particular benefit as well. Say if you're in the latter stages of like Alzheimer's, Parkinson, or dementia, those particular three, or of course cancer. Cancer is a major deal, or if you've had strokes or any other health issues to where it formulates a decline in your lifestyle. Those are the things that allows us as a provider to conduct an assessment to find out what's really going on with your loved one. Is your loved one, whatever diagnosis that they are currently going through, are they appropriate for this form of care? Now, if they are, then we suggest that, hey, seek out a hospice provider as soon as possible. Again, we always wait to the end, but as soon as we find out that our loved ones have a terminal illness, it is at that time that you want to reach out to your physician and say, hey, is my loved one appropriate for some additional care, perhaps from hospice care? He or she, that particular physician, is going to say yes or no. And if they say yes, then don't hesitate, because what happens is if we get on hospice early enough, our loved ones tend to live a little bit longer than what a lot of the physician has diagnosed on the front end, where it says 6 months or left. Well, we've had individuals, because they got on the service in the early stages, that they got better care. And they were able to manage certain symptoms that your loved ones are going through. So what happens is we were able to manage it. Now, we're not going to be able to cure it, but we still manage the time to sustain life. In other words, as a caregiver, that's all that we're asking for, is a little bit more time with our loved ones. Well, that's what hospice care does for you. It allows you to not be stressed out about, because you're already dealing with the emotional drama of just knowing that, hey, Your loved one has a terminal illness. They got X amount of months to live. First of all, God is in control. He is the ultimate caller. But as I stated earlier, what I love about what he does on this side of heaven, he gives us choices on how we go through that journey. Now, the journey as a caregiver, our goal is to make sure that, one, our loved ones get the best quality care that is still available for them. And two, we just want peace of mind knowing that we're doing everything that we possibly can to make sure that mom or pops or our grandparents or our loved one receives the best care that is available out there. Okay. Now, so we found out that, okay, our loved one is appropriate. So what happens next? Well, what happens next is once you select your provider, what's going to happen is they're going to come out and we're going to do an assessment. And we're going to try to figure out how do we start this process of take care of your loved one. There are 4 levels of care. The first level of care is routine care. Routine care basically states that your loved one has a terminal illness, but he or she is still able to do the things that you and I are capable of doing. Feed ourselves, bathe ourselves, still do quality things. However, it also dictates how many times your loved ones will be seen from the team. It's going to either be 2 to 3 times throughout the week or 5 times throughout the week, or perhaps overnight stay. We don't know, but that's what the levels of care are there for, to give us an assessment on how we start out with your taking care of your loved one. Then the next level of care is continuous care. Continuous care means that your loved one, not only are we taking care of what the current diagnosis is, but all of a sudden we're finding out that there are other underlying health concerns that are uncontrollable nausea, vomiting, or going through a lot of pain. Well, that makes you eligible for the next level of care, which is called continuous care, which allows us to provide maybe a little bit more supervision. And if that's the case, we can provide overnight supervision. We can do that up to 2 to 3 times a week. And then, what we do is we'll reassess each day, every 24 hours, on what is the progress of what your loved one is going through. Because remember, the goal is to try to get the pain under control. Okay, so your loved one is not suffering while on that particular journey. The third level of care is inpatient care. Now, inpatient meaning that, okay, well, first of all, as I stated, you have uncontrollable pain. But what happens now, if you as the caregiver can't get the pain under control, we as the provider can't get the pain under control, then what would happen is we will bring them into our inpatient unit. Now, we have an inpatient unit over at Big Methodist on the 5th floor. It's a beautiful setting. It's a home-like setting. But what they do there, it is simply symptoms management, pain control. So we'll take them to our inpatient unit. Their primary focus is to get the pain under control. Once they get the pain under control, then your loved one can go back to wherever they consider home, whether it be back at their home itself or at a nursing facility, or if they're back at the hospital if need be. Okay. And then the last one is respite. Now, those first 3 is basically for your loved ones, but the respite is for you as a caregiver. In case of if you need to still run errands or go to another funeral, what we ask is that you reach out to us, and then we'll take your spot and supervise your loved one until you get back. Now, Medicare gives you up to 5 days at every 90-day cert to make sure that, hey, you can get the break as well as a caregiver that's overseeing your loved one. Now, do you have a question?
At this time, you've gone over the 4 levels of care. Was there anything else that you were going to share with us?
Yes. Lastly, I wanted to share with you that this particular form of care is covered at 100%. There's no out-of-pocket cost to you. and all your medication and your that's pertaining to your loved one's care and their diagnosis along with equipment is all covered at 100%. And you get a team that'll take care, that'll be working on your behalf, so you won't have to be stressed out, worried about who's going to do what. You got a team working on your behalf.
All right. Thank you so much for that information. So we got the 4 levels of care. He told you how much it costs. This is great information. Hospice is not an automatic death sentence. It is most likely a smooth transition to the next stage for the patient. And your goal is to make this as comfortable and celebratory and dignified as possible. Thank you so much for that. So now what we are getting ready to do is we are going into a full Q&A. Well, we're going to allow everyone to, what is that? Testing. All right. So what we're going to do is allow everyone to answer questions. So a few here. I've got, can you provide information on how to start the last will and testament process? Reach out to the attorney. That would be an Alexis Barber situation. So we've answered that one for you. And I'm just going to keep scrolling through. Did you say this will be on YouTube later to look at? Yes, Carla. It will be on the church's YouTube page and on the church's Facebook page as well. And here's a good question. Sandra wants to know what should you use versus a trust versus a will? So I will let the panelists answer that. We ask that you keep your response to 1 minute.
So a will and a trust, it really depends on the particulars regarding your estate. There are some pros and cons to both. I'll highlight a few very briefly. In regards to a trust, you're looking at a lot more expense up front, but this will allow you to put all of your assets within the trust. And most importantly, a trust is considered a private document. When you pass away and you have a will, that document is public knowledge and information. It goes on the respective county's probate website. And so if you just have a will, any assets that you have, that information will be listed publicly. However, with the trust, all of your assets are concealed. So your particular items, those won't become public knowledge. You know, it really depends on the complexities of your estate as to whether you need a will or a trust. But if individuals have a trust, I absolutely recommend that you still have a will, because the items that are in your trust are the only items that will be distributed. And if you gain additional items after you write this trust and they're not in the trust, you still have to go through the probate process, which is why a will is essential.
All right, Cheryl, there's the next question.
How can I get a will registered for Texas to recognize my heirs? This is a good question, and it will go to, we're going to start with Vicki. Vicki, if you could piggyback on what Attorney Barb, the question Attorney Barber had, an attorney, after Vicki finishes, if you would address this. Vicki?
Oh, okay. Are you asking me to address about a will?
Yes. How can a will, I wanted you to address the previous question about trust and a will. They had the question that Attorney Barber just answered. We just wanted you to give a little more input on that.
Well, I'm not, you know, when we're talking about trust and wills, my specialty is, you know, prearranged funeral planning. And so unless they're going to be putting that, the will does ask about prearranged funeral planning. And if it's, you know, the information to be provided on the will, if they have already put their prearranged funeral plan in place. And so the will does ask, you know, where your arrangements made, and even with the cemetery, where the arrangements made. And so that is important when you're doing a will. And if you don't have a prearranged funeral plan, that will ask for that. So it's a very important document that will need to be applied also with the will.
Okay, then. Thank you. Attorney Barber, can you tell us where we can get a will registered for Texas to recognize our heirs?
Of course, Angela, if you want to contact my office, I can speak with you specifically about your needs, just to get a little more information as to whether you already have a will drafted in another state. And if you want to make sure that your will be valid here in Texas, please feel free to reach out to my office. My information is at the bottom of the screen, and I will communicate with you after the event within the chat.
Okay. Okay, Dorothy asks, we need help trying to resolve/transfer the trust my ex-husband left to our daughter. She was 15 when he passed. She's now 22 and still has not had the inheritance released to her. How do we complete this, Attorney Barber?
Please feel free to reach out to me or any other attorney that handles probate matters. This is something that you will have to speak with an attorney to do, and there will have to be filings within the court system. Again, my information is at the bottom, and feel free to reach out. I wish you the very best in this. This is something that happens often, and it is something that can be resolved.
All righty. You kind of addressed this, but can you touch on the myths, comments that people make? I don't need a will because I don't have anything. That's from Kelly Wilmore. Attorney Barber.
I will definitely say that, I've heard this myth often. I don't have anything. Why do I need a will? And I think that's an incomplete sentence. I don't have anything right now. And so even if you have limited funds and limited assets right now, you don't know what the future holds. If you were to pass away and there's a claim on your estate, or let's say you passed away in a car accident and there are now proceeds that are going to go to your estate because someone else was at fault, you still need to have a will to kind of designate where these funds will go. You could win the lottery the day before you pass away. Who's going to get those funds? And that may not be the best example, but the point is, regardless of the size of your estate, you still need to have some type of direction in place on who you want to receive, even what you may think are meager items. If it's special to you, you still need to have your house in order.
Okay, thank you so much for that. We have time for one more question. Why should I pre-plan versus just having life insurance to cover it? Who wants to take that? Vicky, Barbara, or?
I think Vicky should answer that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, most definitely. Okay, so why should I pre-plan versus having life insurance? Life insurance is a good thing to have, no doubt about it. Life insurance, and a lot of African Americans or people of color, we use life insurance to bury us. But life insurance is a vehicle really designed to help families continue to live as they are already living. After they've lost their a provider. Okay, so life insurance is a good thing, but it's not designed. It's a financial vehicle. It's not designed to bury you. That's the purpose of prearranged funeral planning, because you're putting everything in specific. Now I have both. I have both life insurance and I have a prearranged funeral plan. But I don't want my son to use the life insurance to bury me. I've already put that in place. The life insurance is to help him to continue to live. He's going to have bills and things like that to pay, and with my estate, if I have anything that needs to be paid off, then the funds are there to do that. So the life insurance is designed for the living to continue to move forward and not have to have things turned off or lose a home, lose a car, and all those type of things. When you have a life insurance in place, they can use that to take care of that. Pre-need is designed to bury you only. That's the only purpose of a prearranged funeral plan, is to make sure that you have a decent final celebration. Okay.
All righty. We want to thank you so much. We want to thank everyone for their questions. Please know that our panelists will be accessible for you to reach out to them in the chat a few minutes after we sign off. If not there, you can go to their websites or their contact information. Back to you, Dr. G.
Okay, I have to be candid in that we only had 2 other questions. Oh, now there's more. Can we just address a couple more real quick? Can y'all tell me, how long does it take to get a death certificate?
Well, death certificate, it could take, depending on if the funeral home expedites it, it could probably be within 2 weeks. Then, or if it's just standard, it may be a little over 2 weeks. And then with the pandemic that has happened, it's taken a little bit longer with the mail time. But I would say probably around three weeks at the most, but depending on if it's expedited or not by the funeral home.
Great.
And it could take longer depending on the cause of death also.
Yes, right.
Exactly. I wanted to mention that
yeah.
the doctors have to sign up. So a lot of times it takes a long time for the doctor to sign off on that certificate.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
And one thing I'd like to say about death certificates, it's so important, sorry, Dr. G, is when you get it, make sure you get multiple copies of it, because there are places that will need it and they won't take a regular copy. It has to be a certified copy.
Yes.
It sticks for my adoptive mom. If I'm a beneficiary of my parents' insurance, am I liable for their debt?
No. If I'm a beneficiary, am I liable for their debt? No, you're not. You didn't sign on anything. You're not liable for the death. But if Attorney Barr, correct me if I'm incorrect, but if they have a will in place and they want their debts to be taken care of, should they then at that point it's going to be a situation with probate?
Well, it really just depends on what type of debt it is. There's secured and unsecured debt. If you aren't listed on any of their accounts as an account holder or someone that signed on for some of this debt, you won't be liable to it. But that's a pretty specific question. You may need to follow up with a financial or a tax advisor or an attorney. So, but in answer to the specific question I saw, no, you're not liable.
All right. There was one other question. I can't find it right now, so we'll go ahead and go. We're going to wrap it up. Pastor Fitz.
Hey, family, I just want to say bravo, man. I so appreciate Thy Wills Be Done. Great job. Thank you, Howard, for leading our bereavement community and doing a phenomenal job at what you do. Our panelists, I did have a question for Patrick Bullock. I'm getting texts all the time. So they were asking, Patrick, how do we get in touch with you? And so we got to find out how we can get his information out there from Vitas. All right. I want to say, Dr. G, you are phenomenal. Thank you so much for how you moderated our Thy Wills Be Done. I love your tenacity, I might say. And I love how you just brought in the Atatiana sisters. Thank you. We are praying for them and covering them. On behalf of our senior pastor, Dr. Frederick Douglass Haynes III, our entire Pastor Durr, our executive pastor, Vita Holt, who is our COO. We love you and thank you for all the folks who have signed on. I want to say we do have this hard copy of Thy Wills Be Done Final Wishes book. We'll have it at the receptionist desk at the church. I only have 100 copies. And so we're going to ask that every family gets 1 or 2. Don't get 6 of them for mama and them. Just get one for you. And we'll see how it goes. We didn't want to overprint. Yes, it has all the information that we talked about on a hard space. Again, go to our website, and the toolkit for legacy is a soft copy place that you can get all your information. I do want to say we have a wonderful committee that has done these things. Every year we do a Deacon Willie Wilson Award, who has served our community and bereavement on a phenomenal way. And that name will come, Lou Andrews. You are the recipient of the Deacon Willie Wilson Award for this year. And we want to thank you for that. Also, we have a Harriet Tubman Award. That is the one who goes far beyond what they're supposed to do. And with this pandemic, I want to say that this individual has blown the top off of serving. And that is going to Una Howard. our bereavement leader. She didn't know she won it. And so you are the recipient of the Harriet Tubman Service Award. Also, we have a 10th year anniversary platinum souvenir book that we're going to do. And that'll be coming out shortly. We're working on the ads. But the top ad getter, again, Lou Andrews, she is the top ad getter. She got the most ads. And so there is a gift coming your way along with that award. You're going to get a gift in this card coming your way. So thank you. And last but not least, we have the patrons list. And this is the person that did most of the patron list. And that is no other than Deacon Ambassador Mary Wilson. She gets the patron list award. So for getting the most patrons. I appreciate y'all. Pastor, forgive us for going over, but our information was phenomenal. Our speakers were phenomenal. And I just thank God for all that we do. Team, thank you, Chris Norman, Albany Haynes, for getting all that together, our communication team, and the platform for doing Thy Wills Be Done. Thank you, Friendship West. Thank you so much for watching, and all who are watching us. It's back to you, and we're going to close out with a word of prayer. Dr. Grayson, do you have any closing words? Not at all. Okay. Well, you're on mute.
Not at all. Thank you for this great information. Thank you for allowing me to participate.
Sure. Let's go to God. Lord, our Father, we are blessed because of another year of Thy wills be done, that we will partake of the information. You said in your word that the people perish because of lack of information. I thank you, and the lack of vision. I thank you, God, for vision casting. I thank you, God, for a church that's proactive in settling our things as we go home, not putting more grief on those things of a loss. God, I pray for the Atatiana sisters, oh God, Atatiana sisters, we ask that you would cover them, heal them, and not only them, all those who have lost loved ones are going through, even through this pandemic, oh God, we pray for peace. We pray, oh God, for our nation. We pray for our pastor, even on Sunday, and the pastors, the doors that are open in the name of you. God, have your way. Bless our time together. Bless our panelists. Bless our leaders. Bless all who are doing what they need to do to serve your people. We love you and we thank you. In the name of Christ, we pray, our liberating Savior. Amen. Peace. Holla. Thank y'all.